Welcome to Chapter 5 for Exercise Leadership 2. Let's get this slideshow going. All right. So, evolution of a personal trainer. So, personal training has changed from focusing on improving the fitness of primarily already fit clients to one that is playing a key role in healthcare continuum. All right. So, way back when, the only folks that used to really get trainers, and again, this is way back when, probably anybody that's listening to this would be hard pressed to have been alive back when basically trainers were pretty much the strength coaches. They used to work with folks that were like doing bodybuilding or fitness or I mean, really, that was like where we like trainers evolved from. All right, and then working with really wealthy people that wanted to be in shape and stuff like that, and then um, it's become part of healthcare, right? We realize that fitness, fit people are healthier, and so it's kind of worked its way into that. So most of you weren't around when that stuff, when that was the way it was. I was born kind of probably in the back end, but I mean, things had already transitioned even by then. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of where our profession was birthed out of. So, through exercise and health behavior changes, personal trainers are now helping an aging and increasing overweight population to improve function, health, fitness, quality of life. Or that's what we're trying to do. But let's be completely honest. Every time we get the new numbers on overweight and obesity, we are not helping. Apparently, the amount of population that gets overweight and obese and has chronic illnesses and that are related to that as constant increasing numbers. So, that being said, we've got a big mountain to climb, right? So, again, function, health, fitness, quality of life. And again, you know, those are all good goals. And some people's are going to want, yeah, I mean, here's the thing, some people are going to come to you for one of those sometimes, but they should get all of them out of you, right? Or they should get all of them out of creating a lifetime of fitness, right? Um, so again, you're going to get a variety of clientele. Now, here's the thing, you can get a variety of clientele or you can not. And it's really up to you as a trainer. If there's a niche that you like to work with, like say you like working with elderly, you don't like working with younger folks, you can. If you like working with younger folks and like working with elderly, you can. If you'd rather work with athletes than non-athletes, you can. If you'd rather work with weight loss versus muscle mass building or something like that, you can. You can kind of like get into an it's almost like if you think of like doctors, right? Like you got general practitioners, you've got surgeons, you've got orthopedic surgeons, you may have brain surgeon, a heart surgeon. Yeah, I mean, there's little specializations that you can kind of get into even within fitness. And to be honest, sometimes for some people, they're really good about being a jack of all trades, working with all kinds of people. And for some folks, you have a preference. There's what you like to do and dislike. So I honestly don't, like I know some people downplay folks that maybe like just work with certain type of clients. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, especially if you like what you're doing. And with doing that too, you serve those clients better sometimes, right? The one thing I always warn trainers about getting into is working with clients that you don't look forward to working with, whether that's personality or the type of goals they have or whatever it is. And so always try to surround yourself, like I said, it's a relationship, it's like dating. Try to surround yourself with clients that you're going to enjoy training, so that you give them 100% and in return you can expect them to give you better efforts and things. What you don't want is to be in a situation where you don't want to be there and they don't want to be there, right? So again, enhance activities of daily living. Again, ADLs for everybody's going to be different, right? So if somebody's like say their ADLs is, like say you got somebody that basically works around their house, right? Could be like cleaning the house, folding laundry, making dinners, things like that. That's their ADLs. The ADL of a elite gymnast is going to be much different, right? So when you think about that, people think, okay, what are activities of daily living? It's very subjective to the subject that you're training. Okay. Positively affect metabolic function with weight loss. It's kind of funny. There's some research that shows that actually bigger folks actually have a faster, or not fast. Well, I mean, I guess you can put it that way. They have a faster, higher metabolism with the more weight that you add. Now again, that's before you start, like you get to a point where you start messing up, like by doing crazy things, you may mess up your thyroid or things like that. But as you lose weight, you actually lose some of your metabolic speed, so to speak, or like you can take in more calories when you're bigger versus smaller and things like that. So it's kind of funny how like when you think of weight loss, like all the positive, there is a slight negative in a little bit, but it's really, again, like, and the reason I'm bringing that up is because when you see something like that, understand, don't let folks take that out of control. It's still better to lose weight, and yes, your metabolism may slow a bit, but at the same time, you're in a healthier position, right? And so it may not come off as easy as, and again, that may also explain to you why, like, as you get closer, it gets harder to lose that little extra bit, right? So just kind of understand that. But again, it's not like such a huge, it's not like a gross, like, like just big, like the brakes, like you slam on the brakes when it comes to your metabolism. So again, just understand that, that, like, it's funny they put it positively affects. Yeah, there's metabolic functions that have positive effect with your body getting in better shape and losing weight. And then there's also not necessarily, I wouldn't even say negative effect, it just is what it is type of thing, right? Progress movement patterns to avoid injury and improve posture. So we want to progress from doing poor movements that may make you more injury prone to doing movements that not only help your body become healthier and stable, but when you do them in good posture, you're less likely to hurt yourself. So again, function or form, function, and then like if you think of it in this order, you want to have the best form you can, go through the full function of the form, and then you can, at that point, you can concentrate more on the fitness, which would be like the increase in weights or doing more reps or whatever that is, right? If you're doing movements wrong, now here's the thing here, I mean, here's the caveat to that. You could have somebody that doesn't know what they're doing. They're going to the gym, and as long as they get lucky and don't overdo it and hurt themselves, even with poor function and error, poor form and everything else, they could get healthier, right? But is it the right way to get healthier? Not. I mean, there's not a right or wrong, but it's not the most conducive, most efficient, safest way to do it, right? So understanding that, yes, we want people to do things correctly so that there's less chance of injury, that they get full range of motion in their joints and things like that. So it's important to do it correctly, okay, for many reasons. And yes, sometimes your form will falter as you get exhausted and tired. And in certain exercises, it may not be a big deal, but be careful, especially when you're doing heavy lifts and when you're doing lifts that are very complex movement oriented, where you can actually hurt yourself, right? Like doing Olympic lifts and things like that. You want to enhance cardiorespiratory fitness, bolster heart health, endurance, and performance. And again, people will ask me, well, which is better, weight training or cardio? Neither's better, neither's worse. They both have their benefits. I mean, really, you should do both. I mean, and again, how much cardio do you want to do versus weights or weights? It depends on what your goals are, right? If you want to be, like if you want to be able to go do races and run 10Ks and 5Ks or triathlons and stuff, yeah, you're going to focus a bit more on cardio versus the weights. If you're trying to bulk up and bodybuild and things like that, your cardio may not be as much cardio as it's just like, you may just be getting on there and trying to burn a certain amount of calories, because again, you don't want to have too much mitochondria moving over and using more type 1 fiber and things like that, and becoming more aerobic versus anaerobic. So it depends on what you're going for, right? And again, increase muscular development to build strength, speed, power, and again, bulk if you're going for aesthetics, right? And so again, both are going to be important, okay? Research on health behavior changes has resulted in knowledge, tools, and techniques that personal trainers can now implement to, one, build client self-efficacy. We've talked about that. That's the most important thing. If you can change that, you can change the course of whether or not somebody will probably stick to it. Focus on program adherence. Again, self-efficacy, if they have high self-efficacy, it's going to help with the adherence. And lessen client attrition. So those two are sort of like the same thing. So I don't know, we want them to adhere, therefore we don't want attrition by them dropping out. Kind of in that, just, if one is up, the other one is down pretty much, right? So the shift is advanced professions to incorporate new training parameters to produce unique blend of assessments and programming that addresses each client's individualized needs and goals. That's a big thing. Always remember, don't treat your client like another number, right? What they need is going to be different than the person that comes in like if you have clients stacked through the day, your 8 o'clock client's different than your 9 o'clock, different than your 10 o'clock, so on and so forth, right? And their training, the way that you work with them, all that should be individualized or tailored to their needs, right? So here's the traditional training parameters versus new. Again, what you see on the left, you're also going to see on the right. So, don't, they may write it a certain way, but again, the old school thinking was, look, we're not trying to change folks. This is here for you to do. If you want to do it, right? If you've got the discipline, then you're going to do it. And here's what it is, right? But now, because people aren't doing what they should be doing, we've got to kind of help them get into it, right? So health behavior change, huge. Postural kinetic chain stability. To be honest, that's kind of been there for a while. So again, like you think about the old school bodybuilder. I mean, most of those folks training way back when were trying to do good stability and good posture. That really hasn't. That's not as new as they're trying to make it, but the problem is we have more non-athletes and more folks getting into fitness that have no idea what they're doing, that we just have to focus more on it, is really what it is. Kinetic chain mobility, again, that kind of comes a bit out of like physical therapy and rehab stuff. So again, it's getting implemented more into the things that we do with everybody. And so that's why you could say that's kind of newer. Movement efficiency, again, movement efficiency for athletes was always important. So again, that's not, not necessarily new. I wouldn't even say kinetic chain is really all that new, because again, when you work with athletes, that's always big. Core conditioning, people have been doing abs and stuff forever, so I don't think that's really all that new either. I think there's more focus on it in some regards, and really understanding what it is and what it does, and understand there's a difference between core exercises and core conditioning. We'll talk about that later, but balance, again, now that we're working with older populations and things like that more and more, that's more important. Again, balance was always a key factor when working with athletes, but general population maybe not as much. So it's, again, something more that focused on cardiorespiratory fitness, aerobic and anaerobic. So that's kind of where they made the difference. Now anaerobic, if you're thinking, you're like, okay, what would that be? That'd be like kind of doing repeated sprints or hit training, and again, those things, again, there's the old school aerobics, like everybody lace up their shoes, get on a bike or go swim for, long distance, where, we're doing more hit training, or we're doing more like boot camp style things of that nature. Metabolic markers, ventilatory thresholds, again, you probably won't see that in personal training. If you do, you're at some really fancy gym, to be honest. These are things that are more focused on us as researchers, or professors, or those that work with high caliber athletes and things like that. Muscular endurance, again, same. Muscular strength, flexibility, those are the same from before. Agility, coordination, reactivity, again, that depends on who you're working with. You'll do that. And then speed and power, again, depends on who you're working with. Again, those have been there a while with working with athletes for decades upon decades. Okay. So 2008 physical activity guidelines for Americans suggest that adults should participate in structured physical activity to experience health benefits at least 150 minutes per week at a moderate intensity, or 75 at vigorous. Combination of both is fine. Again, just because you hit 150 doesn't mean that you can't do 200. So yeah, when people ask me, well, what do I need to do? This is your bare minimum for the health stuff. More is always better. If you can do more, right? I mean, that's really what it is in our industry. More is better. The more you work out, the better it is, right? People always worry about overtraining. 99% of the, like when we're talking about non-athletes, athletes do need to worry about overtraining. Non-athletes, 99.9%, no, don't even worry about it. You're not going to overtrain. Most people just aren't going to do it. All right. So aerobic exercise, evidence-based general recommendations, again, more than 5 days a week of moderate exercise, more than 3 days a week of vigorous, or a combination of both for more than 3 to 5 is recommended. Again, more is better, right? Intensity, moderate and or vigorous intensity is recommended for most adults. Light to moderate intensity exercise may be beneficial in deconditioned individuals. Again, do what you can, light to moderate, but more is better, right? I can keep saying that more is better, more is better. 30, 60 minutes a day, proposed moderate exercise, 20, 60 of vigorous, of combination moderate and vigorous per day is recommended. Again, you just, work out, however you want for that, right? So again, yeah, you're not going to go for as long of workouts if you're pushing yourself really hard. I mean, you're going to, use up all your energy, you're going to be done, right? Less than 20 minutes of exercise per day can be beneficial, especially in previously sedentary individuals, or, I mean, again, it's one of those things that anything's better than nothing, and more is better, right? So, if somebody can't do that, man, just get something in 15 minutes, 10 minutes, and again, you can do 10 minutes here, 10 minutes here, 10 minutes here, and it's still, just because you didn't do it all together, it still has a cumulative benefit effect. Okay. Regular purposeful exercise that involves major muscle groups and is continuous and rhythmic in nature is recommended. Again, it doesn't have to, like, sometimes when people think exercise, they think, okay, I gotta go run, I gotta go back, I get it. No, you can go play basketball. You can go, there's a lot of things you can do. You can go skateboard. I mean, whatever you want to do for fun, just go do it. Okay. It doesn't have to necessarily be what people think is exercise. Go surfing, go paddleboarding. I don't care. If you're going and doing it, just go do it and enjoy it and have fun. It doesn't have to be in the gym, doesn't have to be on a treadmill, doesn't have to be in the pool, swimming, or on a cycle. It can. And if you enjoy those things, go do those things. If you want to go do things that are more like sports and not necessarily like people think of exercise, I think of it more of sport, and you can do it often and have fun doing it, go do it. Okay. Again, greater than or equal to um, oops, greater than or equal to 500 to 1,000 METs a week is recommended. MET is metabolic equivalency. Again, you'll see this measured sometimes on the cardio equipment you do. It's it's not the most accurate thing to use, but the thing you'll notice is, whatever your normal, like say you're doing an elliptical and you'll notice like you're doing this many METs, when you first start, and then you can try to make that go up again. I would use measurements that you understand better, such as like, you can increase, the time you spend doing it. You can increase speeds. You can increase, like it's something that has resistance or intensity thing. I mean, those things, like those are probably going to be easier things for you to deal with, right? Increase pedometer steps counts by more than or equal to 2,000 steps a day. Reach daily step counts greater than or equal to 7,000 steps daily is beneficial. Exercise below these volumes may still be beneficial. It's kind of funny. They're like, this is where we want you, but just do something, right? That's the whole thing. More is best. Here's where we'd like to see you, but if you're not even here, just do something that's better than nothing, right? Something's better than nothing, and more is better. Just keep those in mind through this entire lecture. Exercise may be performed in one continuous session or in multiple sessions, right? So you can do like 8 minutes here, 8 minutes there, 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there. And again, exercise bouts of less than 10 minutes may yield favorable adaptations in very deconditioned individuals. So people that like just feel like they're going to die within the first 5 minutes, you don't want to have them go 30 minutes, right? So they can do 5 minutes, take a rest, come back, do 5 minutes more, take a rest, or you can do it all continuous, depends on the person, right? And gradual progression exercise volume by adjusting exercise duration, frequency, and or intensity is reasonable until the desired exercise goal is maintained or attained. This approach may enhance adherence and reduce risk of injury, right? Don't come in with the all or nothing on folks. And again, you're going to have folks that are going to come in with that mentality. They hadn't worked out in forever and they're like, oh, yeah, let's go run like 10 miles. And after that, I want to lift a lot of weights. It's like, whoa, hold down. They're probably not going to come back the next day. They won't be able to get out of bed. So again, we want to progress folks at a rate that is sustainable for them. And some people are going to be a little bit more intense. That's okay too, right? Sometimes you may have to kind of like pull back on the reins on some folks, right, for their own good. Resistance exercise, each major muscle group should be trained 2 to 3 days a week. 60-70% of 1 rep max is moderate to vigorous for novice to intermediate exercisers to improve strength. Greater than or equal to 80% 1 rep max for experienced strength trainers to improve strength. 40 to 50% 1 rep max. Very light to light intense for older individuals beginning exercise to improve strength. 40 to 50% 1 rep max, very light to light, may be beneficial for improving strength in sedentary individuals beginning a resistance training program. Less than 50% 1 rep max, light to moderate, to improve muscular endurance, and 20 to 50% 1 rep max in older adults to improve power. Now that I've gone through all those, here's the thing. To get 1 rep max, you got to do 1 rep max. Now you can do a 10 rep max to estimate a 1 rep max, but it's not actually going to be their 1 rep max. So that being said, here's the thing. When somebody comes in, you can either spend time testing them to figure out what you think their 1 rep max would be. The other thing you could do is kind of, like have them hold a bar or something and like have them do like a couple reps, like say they're doing bench with the bar, right? They do a couple reps and you're like, however easy they do it, you probably seen enough. Hopefully once you've worked long enough, you can be like, all right, I think I can add 20 pounds on each side and I'm going to see you struggle, doing about like 10 of these, right? So, you can kind of pick by what you see when you do an unloaded, or a very light load movement. And then from there, you can kind of just gauge where they're starting at. You don't necessarily always have to do the 1 rep max. Now, with athletes, a lot of times we like the 1 rep max. I mean, they like the 1 rep max because they like to test themselves. Again, you can do the 10 rep max to estimate with folks that you feel it might be dangerous to 1 rep max stuff for, and that's fine too. Just understand that that is going to overestimate what their actual 1 rep max is. And again, I've tested this with several athletes where we do the 10 rep max. It'll say like their bench press is 380, but then when we actually 1 rep max them, it's like, like um, it's like 360 or something like that. So it never quite adds up correctly. So just understand that that whatever it says it is, it's not. And then again, if you're going to use 1 rep max, you're going to have to retest them every so often to get new percentages. Again, that's why if you just want to go with like, here's their starting weights and something, it's a lot easier to like, okay, we've been stuck here for a little bit. I'm going to make you go up, like a couple pounds or so this week. And we're going to start from there. Even if you're not getting the numbers, we got to get your strength moving this way, right? A lot of times I find it more practical with most clients to do it that way. Resistance exercise involves each major muscle group is again recommended. Don't skip leg day. Multi-joint exercises affecting more than one muscle group and targeting agonist antagonist are recommended for all adults. Again, there's a lot of benefits in doing multi-joint, or sometimes if you do like a full body exercise, or you think like a squat to press or something like that. What it does is there's a lot of neuromuscular things that go on top of the fact that you're just moving more muscles at the same time. So you're not having to like segment out each exercise. Single joint exercises may also be included in it. And typically we do them after multi-joint. So we do that for a few reasons. One, usually when you're doing multi-joint stuff, most of those exercises are slightly more dangerous than the single joint. So we don't want to tire out any single muscle before it's utilized in something that, especially when you're lifting weights overhead, or the, weights are hovering above you, where you got like the squat, the bar on your back while you squat and things like that. You want to do your multi-joint stuff first for safety reasons. And again, if you wear out any single exercise or any single muscle, it's going to affect how well you allow all the other muscles to do things, and you may not get the lift as much out of, like as much weight on the lift, the multi-joint. So again, we typically do it that way. If you want, okay, so I'm saying that, but then at the same time, there are times, this is getting into very specifics with certain folks. Sometimes if somebody during a multi-joint lift tends to push more with a certain muscle group, or, it doesn't allow sometimes we will exhaust that muscle group to try to force them to use the other muscles. But that's a whole different thing, right? So, I don't want any experienced people to be on here going like, well, hold on, what about? Yeah, that's the what about, right? Yeah, there's a lot of different things. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of different approaches. Sometimes we'll actually have somebody do the group of muscles that they want to try to focus on more because they just don't feel like they can push them, or they don't feel like they're activating them. We'll actually sometimes have them fatigue those just a little bit so they feel them, so that when they do the multi-joint, they feel a little bit of soreness in those muscles, and it helps them to engage too. So sometimes we overexhaust one group to use the other muscle group. Sometimes we exhaust a little bit of the group we want to use just so you can feel it, so you can do it. So yeah, a lot of different things we do with that, but generally, yeah, this is correct. 8 to 12, 10 to 15, and 15 to 20. These are not 100% guaranteed the way it works. Now for strength and power, the less reps, the better, right? And again, for strength and power, we even actually do less than 8 to 12 a lot of times. A lot of times you're looking at like 5 reps for strength and power. The thing with power is it's more of like you're given a full effort, and you can only do that for, like a few reps anyways. After that, you're basically getting into a strength routine, right? So, Yeah, a lot of times for like max strength and stuff like that, or max power and things, we even actually do 8 to 12. 8 to 12 is what they call the hypertrophy range. And again, can you get muscle hypertrophy out of the hypertrophy range? Yes, you can do it when you're doing the really heavy stuff for like up, like if you're doing like 1 to 3 or 5 or whatever, that those type of ranges as well. Yeah, will you get bigger? Yeah. It's just the focus, right? 8 to 12 is supposed to be the focus of hypertrophy. But again, if you're doing the 10 to 15 reps, which is, again, like they say, it's for improving strength in middle age, or even the 15 to 20 for muscular endurance, can you also get bigger doing that? Yeah, you can, right? And again, there's plenty of evidence that shows that, but yeah, these are some typical things that we do. And again, muscular endurance depends on how many you want. Like if you're going to do push-ups, you may be doing like 60 push-ups, right? So, or 100 push-ups, just depends, right? Um, 2 to 4 sets are recommended for most adults to improve strength and power. Again, you may see sets of 5 or 6 with some athletes when they do some of the power stuff or some of the strength stuff too. So, it just depends, and usually mixing things up, with different sets and stuff like that. Single set of resistance exercise can be effective, especially with older and novice exercisers. Again, it's not a bad idea when you got somebody that's never worked out. You may only do like 1 or 2 sets of something. I like to do 2. This is the only reason why. The first set, a lot of times, is just instruction. Like, okay, they're doing something, you're trying to help them get the rhythm, right? Like, this is how you do this. Make sure your elbows are here, shoulders here, knees here, whatever, right? The second time, I like them to do it again. Hopefully they get they get through all the instruction the second time. I'm hoping they get a feel for it, right? So sometimes it just depends on what you're doing. Less than 2 sets is effective for improving muscular endurance. Rest intervals of 2 to 3 minutes between each set of repetitions are effective. A rest of greater than 48 hours between sessions for any single muscle group is recommended. And again, it depends on the person, what they're doing. Can you work out muscle groups back to back? Yes. Depends on goals and where they're at and stuff like that. So you could do legs on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. You could do full body on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. It just depends. When it gets to like elite athletes, a lot of times, no, we can't do that because we're going to destroy their legs on Monday. They need recovery time so they can do it again by Wednesday or Thursday, right? It depends on the athlete and what their goals are. It depends on the regular person what their goals are, right? And when they work out and all that. Gradual progression of greater resistance and or more reps per set and or increasing frequency or a combination of all that is recommended. So function, health, fitness, performance. This continuum is based on the premise that exercise programs should follow a progression too. Here's the thing. This is where I disagree with this. You can do all of these at the same time. Okay, so if I have a new athlete, I can work on function, health, fitness, and performance from day one. I don't have to go from function to health, health to fitness, fitness to performance. Okay. So, and even with new adults that have never worked out, we can do, and again, there's a certain amount of performance you get even with the function. So, all 4 can be worked on, and that's the thing is, I don't sacrifice helping someone get to their fitness goals by just doing function stuff that's not really moving them forward. And I'm going to warn you guys, because this is where ACE and NASM are getting really stupid in the way that they do things. And yes, I said stupid, and I'll say it again. Is trying to say that, okay, somebody comes in and they don't have really good function. So it's like, okay, we're going to put your weight loss goals on hold while we work on your function. And the way that they write these books, I don't know if this is their intention or not, but this is how a lot of people are now putting it into practice. And we see this in some gyms, that this is the way that they make their trainers do things. Completely disagree, because the thing is somebody's function may be really bad. Okay. But if we're only working on function for the first month and they don't see any weight loss and they came in for weight loss, guess what they're going to do? They're going to quit, right? Because they're not moving towards their goal. Even though you're like, look, once we get this function off, no. And there's trainers doing that, and it's ridiculous and stupid. And I'm sorry. So again, Yes, we want to reestablish proper function, but we can do that while we improve their health and why we develop and advance their fitness and why we enhance performance. It can all happen once. It's not a continuum from going from this to this to this to this. This is a this is basically something that happens all along at the same time, right? So again, you see this phase 1, 2, 3, and 4. No. Okay. And again, not everybody's going to do these different types of training because not everybody wants to get where they're doing anaerobic power training. Some people do, some people don't, right? Some people are not going to want to do anaerobic endurance training. Some people won't want to do aerobic endurance training. Okay. They may want to do more the mix of anaerobic, like, so if you're doing HIIT training, which is like this mix of going from anaerobic endurance and you finally kick into aerobic endurance throughout the course of the session, that's fine, right? We don't have to put everybody through this thing, and they call it the ACE integrated fitness training model. What to me this is the cookie cutter approach. And again, I get it, like there's a bunch of dum-dums out there and maybe they're just trying to keep folks from hurting other folks, but still, okay, you've got to understand you have to work people towards their goals, and those goals need to start on day one, and they need to start seeing that stuff within the first few sessions that they're moving in this direction. You can't have them sitting there working on movement function for an hour and then come back and do that again and then come back and do that again, and they're not getting their heart rate up enough while they're doing it, or they're not seeing strength gains or anything else like that. Okay. So as we go through some of this, you're going to see me basically say, no, this is wrong, because no, this is wrong. Okay. So again, some of this is true. So first time somebody comes in, health risk appraisal, heart rate, blood pressure, height and weight you can take, as well as, they're filling everything out. Again, if they answer yes to any of the questions, they got to get medical clearance. But then we're going to go to session 2, which they want to do static posture stuff. Again, first or second session, static posture can be worked on. It doesn't need to be worked on by itself. You can actually work on it while you're moving them through things. Okay. Again, flexibility. Flexibility can be worked on every single time we're doing things. Working through full ranges of motion. Maybe some people may need to do some pre-stretching before we go through and start doing things. Whether that's dynamic or static is going to be up to you and up to them, and depending on their needs, a combination of, most people need to do some type of dynamic warming up for sure before they get into the workout. Some folks may need a little extra stretching on some muscles, possibly some static or PNF stretching might be necessary as well before they get going. Movement screens. Again, they call movement screens here. You'll see functional screens. Some of them have a little bit of merit. Some of them are absolutely worthless in how they really the screening itself's not bad. It's how it's interpreted is the problem. Okay. So week 1, they want you to work on balance, static and dynamic, and core function. No, week 1, you do everything. Starting week 1, we work on everything, right? Again, we can do static and dynamic balance. We can do core function while we work on flexibility, while we work on aerobic, and while we work on anaerobic strength. Okay. They can start lifting weights and you can work on their balance while they do it. They can work on core function while they do it. They can work on their flexibility while they do it. It can all happen from day 1, week 1, whatever, right? Then they say by week 2, you get into flexibility, body comp, aerobic capacity. Again, these assessments, we can do those assessments on day 1. You can assess flexibility, body comp, aerobic capacity. Again, you're going to do probably, you're not going to do a VO2 max, but, projected. So, we're not going to do a max test on somebody anyways. It's going to be submaximal, right? So, yeah, and that's if you want it or if they want it. You don't always have to do that either. So then it's like they don't even have them getting into muscle endurance or strength until week 3, and then possibly skill related assessments of agility, coordinate. No, um, it's ridiculous. Start working on goals from day 1. Okay. So, and again, some people aren't going to do agility, coordination, reaction time, speed, power. That just depends on who the person is and what their goals are, right? So again, here's their phases, which again is garbage. I really don't have anything good to say about this type of thing. It creates a somewhat cookie cutter design pattern to follow. Okay. Really, this is why I think ACE lost a lot of folks in the fitness industries when they went through all this numbskull thought process. And what irritates me more is I thought NASM was smarter and they decided to jump on board with this idiot train of ideology as well. But yeah, it's crazy. Your client's goals and needs are primary, and you just got to do it in the safest manner possible. But if you don't get them going where they want to go, they're gonna quit on you, and that's not gonna help. Remember, safety first, adherence second. So you do whatever is safest possible with everything you do, but you got to get them moving in the direction they want to go, which is going to help with the adherence. If you tell them not yet, not yet, not yet, they're not going to be patient enough to wait. Okay. And I'm not saying that you like this method wouldn't work in the sense of if you had somebody that didn't have like a personality and they were a robot or whatever, and you're just getting their, yeah, it's fine, but people aren't gonna stick it out with you doing that stuff, right? So if they notice like, hey, my weight's still going up, but you're like, yeah, but we're getting you more functional. No, they ain't gonna be happy about that. Okay. Um, so again, we've all seen folks that walk into the gym, they don't know what they're doing, they're picking up dumbbells or doing this, that, and the other, and they're trying to figure something out to do, right? Again, there's a lot of risks, right? They can hurt themselves in their poor performance of the exercise, doing it wrong, doing too much. They're not really working towards a goal because they don't really know what, like how to set goals to begin with, and they don't know how those things play into it. And so again, yeah, there's a lot of risks because they're not going to, there's a risk of not going where they want to go. There's a risk of getting hurt. There's a risk of, um, you know, them feeling like they really don't know what they're doing. There's all kinds of risks with that. Okay. So again, um, personal trainers need to employ health behaviors change strategies. Again, remember, you want to build that into how you just do things to increase your self-efficacy. What we want to do is get people to be healthier, and we also want them to work towards their goals. And then this last one on here with the ACE IFT model, just forget about that because, like I said, it may work for like 1 or 2 clients out of 1,000 clients that you got. And it's not worth the risk even with that. Always work people towards where they want to go, right? The whole Miyagi Danielson thing doesn't really work, right? And even then, like when he was having him wash the car and paint the fence and do all that stuff, the kid was actually working towards the goal. He just didn't know it, right? I mean, that was a thing. Is like, oh, all of a sudden he has all these skills he can use. But again, most people quit when they're put in that, and these are paying clients. You get them going where they want to go, right? It's not about you, it's about them. And part of it is when you create their workout plan, it said earlier in the book, and this is contradictory what they have in this chapter, is you work out the workout with them. So if they're like, hey, day 1, I want to start doing cardio, then day 1, you start doing cardio. You just do it in the safest manner possible for them. All right. Okay. So that's it. Yeah, I'm going to go off the rails a little bit with this, just because there's a lot of stuff in the ACE book that is just a mess. So understand that there's some good stuff in here, and then there's some stuff that's like, no, that's wrong. So I'll let you know. See you in 5.2.